What's going on, everybody? Almost Counts Collectibles here, and in today's quick video I'm going to show you guys how to hopefully fix a non-working Lightstar Action Power Rangers in Space action figure from the 1998 toy line. So with these particular figures, as I will show you right here, they had this function that if you press this button located right here on their back and hold it down, it will actually light up their helmet with that Ranger's specific Lightstar symbol. Now, sometimes these Rangers stop working. Their Lightstar function no longer works when you press the button. And I'll show you, I have one right here that I recently got, and its Lightstar function is not working. Now, usually, unless there is extensive damage to the helmet where the wiring and the lighting and stuff are located, it can be fixed by one of two simple things. One, simply the batteries have died and they need to be replaced. Or two, the little metal connector that connects to the negative terminal on the bottom battery has simply corroded, or it's dirty and it's preventing that connection, and it just needs to be cleaned off a little bit. I've actually had two Rangers recently that simply just needed the connector cleaned off, and the batteries inside actually still worked. So I'm going to show you guys how to take these apart, where the batteries are located, what kind of batteries you're going to need, how to stick it back together, and how to hopefully fix your non-working Lightstar Power Ranger. So the males and the female Rangers actually have slightly different construction, and that affects how you're going to take them apart. Now, it's just one extra little simple step, but I'm going to show you. So you will see that my female Ranger over here only has 3 main screws located on the back panel, whereas my male Rangers have the 3 main screws on the back of the torso, and then one small screw right here just below the buttocks. Now, the reason for that is the leg function of these Rangers. So with the female Rangers, they actually can only move their legs forward and backwards, just like so. So on the back, there is no extra screw. On the inside, I'll show you, there is a little peg right there that's actually just helping hold this together. But because the leg joints only move back and forth, there's no extra screw or change in the actual construction. When we get to the male figures, however, their hips are a little bit different. Not only do their legs go back and forth, but they're also on a pivot point, so they can also move outwards, which makes it a little more loose down inside of here in the figure because of all this extra room for movement. So we have an extra little screw here to help hold that together. Now, when you're taking the male Rangers apart, you will find, if you take both of them apart, a male and a female, the male Ranger, once you get those 4 screws out, they actually come apart a lot easier because that screw is what's helping hold them together. All the things are a little bit looser, so they tend to kind of come apart a lot better. The joints of the legs on the females actually help hold this torso together, especially if they're in good working condition and their joints are kind of tight. You're going to have to wiggle these legs around as you're trying to wiggle this torso apart because it is going to stick together a little bit better. So I just wanted to point that out. All right, so we're going to go ahead, and this is our working one, and we're going to go ahead and look at the non-working Ranger. Now, I have already removed the 4 screws on this Ranger, just to make sure we didn't run into any issues, so we could go ahead and proceed with the video. As I was saying before, you are going to need a cross-point screwdriver to get these screws out because these screws have to come out. So make sure your cross-point screwdriver fits tightly inside of the screws and there's no play, because you do not want to risk stripping out those screws. Make sure your screwdriver is a good fit. It fits down inside the screw nice and snug, and you apply some pressure when you're taking them out. Sometimes people have tried to take these apart before and the screws are stripped and this, that, and the other. So that's why I went ahead to make sure there was no issues and went ahead and took the screws out so we could proceed with the video. So once these screws are out, like I said with these male Rangers, you simply just need to wiggle the torso. Now keep in mind, on both the male and female Rangers, the helmet does not separate. So don't try to pry apart the helmet. It actually separates just below the neckline right here, and the front torso just slides off. But the helmet will remain connected and connected to the back piece. So I'm going to go ahead and simply pull this apart. Now, if you want to use a fingernail and your limbs will fall off, like I said, they're kind of loose inside of there. That's okay. Do not use a screwdriver or any type of metal object to try to separate and get down in there and pry the torso apart. More than likely, you're going to cause anywhere from minimal to severe damage. It is going to damage it if you're trying to pry it apart. Another reason why you don't really want to do that and you just kind of want to baby it and wiggle it is because there are also these little plastic pegs in here as well, that are going into the front piece. And if you apply too much pressure on one side and it kind of bends, you might snap these pegs off. So just be extra careful with these toys, especially since they're older. But this is what you're going to be left with. So right here, we can see the battery compartment. Now the insides function the exact same way on the males and the females. But on the females, for whatever reason, this battery terminal is actually turned on its side. So the batteries are setting in there vertically instead of up and down right here horizontally like they are on the Red Ranger. So that's the only difference. It works the same way. It's the exact same compartment. It's just turned 90 degrees inside the female. So if you take one apart, you'll notice that. Now, as I said before, this one does not work. So we're going to take these two batteries out, and we'll talk about what kind of batteries you're going to need in just a second. And you should be able to pull these out for the most part, unless they're corroded or stuck in there. You really shouldn't need to pry it out with anything. If anything, just give it a little tap on your hand or something like that, and they might come out that way. So right here on the bottom terminal for the males is our little connector. It's on the left side for the females. But this one's actually very clean. There's no corrosion. I don't really see any dirt. So hopefully it's just the batteries. If not, it would be kind of surprising because I've never really seen these fail unless they get severely damaged. So we're going to go ahead and replace these batteries. Now the batteries we took out are these small alkaline batteries. You're going to need 2 of them. And right here on the back, the ones I'm taking out are LR44s. Now, keep in mind, every manufacturer kind of has their own name branding for these. You will notice that the little identification number, the LR44, if you get a different brand or different type of manufactured battery, even though it's the exact same size, it might have a completely different number. For example, those are LR44s. The ones we're going to put in, I'm pretty sure, are different. Yeah, as you can see right here, these are GPA 76s. GPA 76s. So, to my knowledge, there are over 25 different brand names, the manufacturing name and ID numbers for these batteries. Just make sure, give it a quick Google and find out which ones are similar, for whichever manufacturer you're buying them from. But you need 2 of these. So these I know work. I took them out of a toy that was fully operational. So we're going to stick these in the torso here. And hopefully our Lightstar Ranger will light up. I hope it will. Now, when you put these in, the negative side goes down. So the side with the ID number and the positive symbol needs to face up towards the helmet. So let's go ahead and stick both of these in there. All right, so that's how they're going to go in. Positive side up, and let's give it a press. All right, so it was the batteries. The batteries are no good, and that fixed it. Now, when you put these back together, especially with the males, since their joints and everything are a little bit more loose, it seems, at least from my experience, you want to take the front torso piece, the chest piece, and just lay it down, and then put all the limbs and everything back in. Make sure all the limbs are facing forward, so the right arm goes on the right and left arm goes on the left. We're going to set the arms down in there. We're going to go ahead and put the legs in. So as I was talking about with the male Rangers, they actually can pivot up as well as pivot inside of the actual bottom of the torso connection. So we're going to go ahead and lay them back down inside of their cutouts. Just like so. And then the holster, there's really only one way to put the holster on unless you put it in backwards, but the slit needs to face towards the back of the Ranger. There's a little cutout over here to the right. Set that down inside of there, and then just take the back piece, turn it over, and we're going to set it right down on top of, and my legs fell out. Get them back in there. This is why it's a lot easier. Now, can it be done holding it in your hand? Yes, sure it can, but it's usually a lot more frustration-free and easier if we simply do it this way. So, there we go. Press down on it. Just make sure everything kind of stays lined up as you press down on the back, and it should kind of pretty much fully seat down in there by itself. Once everything, there doesn't seem like there's any snags anywhere, go ahead and give it a little press, and everything should press together nice and neat. As you can see, there's not really any separation. And we're going to reinsert our screws. Now with the screws, the 3 main torso screws on the back are the exact same size, so it really doesn't matter if you mix those up. But the little screw just below the buttocks here is the smallest screw, so make sure you put that back in the appropriate one. When you're putting screws back in, make sure it starts threading nice and smoothly. If you get a lot of resistance, just back it out and start over again to make sure it's level and it's going down in there. You don't want to strip out the threads inside the plastic. Now, for a lot of you, I'm sure this is common knowledge, but for those of you that have never taken anything apart, but you want to attempt to fix some of your collection or your Rangers or whatever the case may be, just be very careful with this old stuff. There are some Power Ranger figures whose plastic is a lot more prone to breaking than others. Specifically the Automorph and Turbo Rangers. Those things are terrible. A lot of the plastic pieces, especially with the way the Automorph and function works. We're actually going to review those in an upcoming video, but those things are always breaking. But with the plastic material that these in-space Rangers were made out of, it's actually very durable. It's almost like a hard rubberized plastic, it seems, but for the most part, it is very good. All right, so we got our Ranger back together. All of our joints are still fairly stiff. And we have a working Red Ranger again. So that is how you take your Rangers apart. Swap out the batteries or inspect them for terminal corrosion or any kind of issues there, and stick them back together, and hopefully they are working properly again. So real quick, this is what they look like. Once again, we'll review this stuff in a separate video, but that is the Lightstar Power Rangers, still sealed in their package. That is what the actual packaging and everything looks like. I really like the Lightstar Rangers, especially since they actually came with their individual weapons that actually appeared in the show to, you know, form the Quadro Blaster and their actual weapons that they used. And we'll knock everything down here on our way out just for the fun of it. No, I'm just kidding. But anyway, hope that you guys found that video helpful, and hopefully you can get your non-working Lightstar Rangers back in working order. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this video up, and until next time, everybody, I will see you next video.